rose again, defeated death, and he has started a new humanity that will never die. So the new humanity that we are, we would get those physical bodies that are incorruptible, that do not die or decay, and that would be eternal in the sense of never dying, immortal. And those bodies would have special capabilities as Jesus exhibited. Jesus could walk through the walls. Jesus could still eat food, digest it. Jesus could still fellowship with people. And Jesus could defy gravity and go into a different space. We do not know anything about all these properties because we do not have anything similar to it today, in today's world. Nobody has tried this. Everybody wants to become immortal in the end. If you ask the richest billionaire, even Elon Musk would want to become an immortal person. But we do not have any mechanism to stop aging or to stop death or to stop decay completely. Until now, nobody has discovered anything or invented anything that can prevent aging completely, that can prevent death completely, that can prevent decay completely. We have not even touched aging, leave alone decay. Decay is, a very long time, very long process, I believe, after we uncover aging and understand how to stop aging. So we have not even scientifically touched anything. Even we don't know what life is composed of or comprises, why people are living and why dead people are dead. We still do not know the real reason. Is there something leaving, or why are these processes stopping abruptly? What is happening behind the scenes? We still do not know. Exactly, we cannot pinpoint why this is happening from the scientific perspective. But from the perspective of God and from the perspective of the Bible, from the theological perspective, when we look at it, God created a good world. People, they chose autonomy. They wanted their own power. They wanted to govern themselves in the world in their own manner. They already were in the image of God. They were loving people. They were created in the image of love. But they wanted the world to be in their image, not in the image of God, their creator. They were supposed to be the image bearers of God, reflecting God's love and stewarding his creation in love. But they wanted the same authority, the same position as God. And when they wanted the same authority, same position as God, they fell in the trap of the devil. And instead of relying on God, depending on God, and carrying on with the work that God gave them in that world, they became conceited. They chose the path of the devil. They were deceived by the devil, apparently, which they discovered later. And then they became aware of their nudity, because until then they believed that Adam and Eve are one person. They were not separate. They were a separate person, but it's a one being kind of a thing. That God took Eve out of Adam, and out of Eve, next children would come. Everybody is, in a sense, united. They don't need to feel any shame. But when people became separate entities, when they see, okay, this woman, from that word itself, you can understand. Initially, the man was saying, she's flesh of my flesh, she's a bone of my bone. These are not flattering words. He felt like that. He felt like that within him. They are not separate beings. They are one. That is the point. That's why the Bible says the man should not separate from his wife. Divorce is not allowed according to the Bible. Not allowed is not the right word. He allowed it later, but that is not the ideal path according to the Bible. And what is ideal is that man and woman shall remain together. They shall separate from their families. Therefore, man shall leave behind his father and mother and be united with his wife. So that is how things were supposed to be. But then, after the devil intervened, and after the man wanted power and authority over everything else, and after he stopped listening to God's love and the love in which he was created, he became deceived. He just ate the fruit that the woman gave, and then both of them could see each other as separate entities. Now they were aware of their newness. Until then, they didn't see each other as separate entities, and so they were not aware of their newness. Now, if you look at your own body, now this part of my body is naked, but I don't feel it is naked. Do I? No. I may see my whole body like this in the bathroom. I don't feel I'm naked. But if somebody else sees me, they will say you're naked. Why? Because they identify me as a separate person. So when man and woman were meant to be together, taken out of one body, and then their children, they did not have to bother about the clothes and things and hiding their certain body parts from others. Look at animals. They don't even care, right? But people in search of knowledge, they knew that they are now naked, they are separate. That's what they understood. They are not one, they are separate. This is why many times, knowledge intervenes in people and separates people. You will see that in your families. When somebody gets a higher knowledge, a higher qualification, there will be some kind of a power imbalance and there will be a separation happening. It is happening everywhere. Knowledge is power. And you gain a higher knowledge, higher power, and then there is a separation. Now, even in churches it happens. That separation, before separation, they're all at one level. But once somebody gains a higher knowledge, higher power, and then they want to separate it. The knowledge always makes people proud. It puffs them up. Love builds communities. Love builds people. Love builds families. Now these people, if they stayed together in that particular crisis, they would not feel separated. They would say maybe that we ate the fruit that we were not supposed to eat. And God may not be so angry with them. I'm looking at another alternative, but that was not true. That didn't happen. What the fruit did to them is what the fruit is doing to all of us. It is making us separated. It is dividing us and ruling over us. That is the way of the world. That is the way of the devil. And that is how the devil got authority over people. Divide and rule is happening everywhere, everywhere. You see, voters are being divided in a certain way, sometimes according to religion, sometimes according to their knowledge or preferences. And then they are being ruled by people who know how to rule, how to get power. This is happening in the church. This is happening among Christians, where love should be dispensed, not hatred. People are hating each other, angry at each other, beating up each other, fighting in law courts, harassing each other, and going to other communities to solve their problems, or seeking the help of police to solve their problems. Now, when these people were together, they were one entity, they were one unit. But now they are not one unit, they're separated. They see each other as separate people, and the man is blaming the woman is blaming the Satan, and all of them get cursed. And as a result, death and decay enter into humanity. Until then, there was no death, there was no decay, nothing was dead. God didn't say anything about people dying or about people getting decayed. God said, if you eat from this, you will die. That's all what he said. He didn't explain the process of death, did he? No. Perhaps these people knew it when they heard it, but they did not know exactly what is going to happen, because they didn't die. They just were cast off from the garden, and then death came in. The effect of that sin, as we call it, so they were supposed to go in a certain direction, that was the direction of love. Instead of love, they chose power and autonomy, and it brought in hatred. Hatred is the opposite of love. So God created people. God is a loving God in the image of love, for the purpose of love, so that they would love each other. That is how God made them. But now they have become hatred. They have lost their purpose. They have not only lost their purpose, they have lost a connection with the source who gave them the purpose. And they have missed the mark. Hamartia. The standard, the benchmark was love. They have missed the mark. And now the opposite of, when you miss the mark, is like you were supposed to hit the target, you didn't hit the target, which means your direction is wrong. You hit it in the wrong direction, the arrow in the wrong direction. The right direction, wrong direction. So Sudarshan is right direction. Durdarshan is wrong direction. The Durdarshan or the Dudarshan or the wrong direction is what you've taken, and the wrong direction is the direction opposite of the Sudarshan. If the right direction was love, the wrong direction is hatred. And it became apparent in their children. Cain became hateful of his brother. And the same thing, he found blame not in himself, but in his brother for his mistake. And instead of loving his brother like his father should have loved his wife, he chose to kill his brother. And when he killed his brother, he had regret, he had remorse, but he wanted to hide from it. He didn't want to take that with him. He didn't want to admit it before God. The same thing that Adam and Eve did. They also wanted to hide their sin. They didn't want to expose their sin. They didn't want to tell God that we have missed the mark. They wanted to cast the blame on somebody else and say that we didn't miss the mark. They missed the mark. They couldn't love. They couldn't stay in love. They couldn't stand in love. They could not stand together in love. And now here we have Cain, who missed the mark by a huge margin, and he was so hateful of his brother that he killed him. That is how death came. Now God said, you shall die, but they didn't die. Their son died. And the son whom they loved and whom God loved, the righteous person, the righteous son, he died in such a pathetic way, killed by his brother. And thus death and decay entered humanity. When death and decay already entered the moment God cursed them, but it became practical and effective as time moved on. And when we look at the whole universe, it became hateful, filled with injustices and death and decay. Though the overarching principle of love of God that governs everything, that builds, that creates, is still working. But death came in. If you notice, you will see here that people went from bad to worse. Like initially, they were hating individually, then they started hating corporately. Like as big units, they started hating. Then they started hating as big nations. And then they started hating as big races. And that is where we are now. And they started killing each other. They just needed a reason to see somebody as somebody else, stereotype them, and then hate them and kill them. It can be religion, it can be race, it can be particular language, anything. They just wanted to see the difference and then stereotype the person or the society, hate them and kill them. And this is the result, direct result of the curse. Jesus came to reverse it. Jesus came to reverse the direct result of the curse, which is death and decay. So Jesus had to die and rise again. Jesus empathized with humanity to such an extent that he was ready to go through the human experience, everything, without sinning. And he rose, defeating death, decay, and even the devil. He rose again, and he gave people the sign that this is possible. This is the new creation, and this is what is going to happen when I return the second time. I will raise all those people who believe in me. Their sins will be forgiven.